There it is. It's going.
Ooh. Okay, so let me ask one quick question. Are these going to be combined into one session, or is it just going to be two separate ones?
Two.
Okay. Well, let's start off things this way because I think this might be good. I guess you could say some of my ministry is online, and frankly, some really bad thing either happened yesterday or this morning. I'm not sure which. One of the kids that I was trying to talk to, his mom ended up hanging herself. And the kid is angry, upset, and I'm going to say he's almost like screaming in this chat room. It's the same kid who got sexually assaulted for years by the preacher. So the clergy, over the past weekend, got arrested. Him and his brother, so he's around 17, his brother's around 14. I'm not going to say their identities or anything, but in the community with young men, they don't have what they need in order to survive, in order to grow and mature. And it's awful. So this is just a serious moment, I guess. And I just heard about this now. So like, I'm just going to try to be there for him. Like I was, because he reached out to me. He reached out to me first, and I was able to help him out and to go talk to his mom, to go try to get help. And now all of this happened, and I don't know. I just heard about this now, like a few minutes ago, so I don't have all the details. It's rough.
Certainly is.
Yeah. Never really, excuse me. I never realized how important things would be to be online, as far as being there to communicate, and in many cases to listen. But in a public space online, it's so easy to forget about other people and to just vent. All right, hang on. That wasn't shut all the way. Being mindful of other people online is very different than in real life. It's because everyone's in one room. There's not a physical distance. It's just a visual distance on what you can see through the screen. Yeah. Okay, I just got a message from someone else, from one of the admins. He said that it was okay. He's basically asking me to let it go. All right. Yeah. So as far as that, with the last conversation, I don't think there's much else that needs to be discussed. Relationships, there's needs to be structure for the young people. I guess that could be the focus of this conversation, if you're all right with that.
Sure.
The younger generation. So one of the problems that two problems that I've brought up to this one men's group before I ended up leaving, because I don't think I was listened to, and I think I was just like, people are nodding and then just continuing right on. And I got very frustrated because I'd been there for around 3 years. The older generation is retiring, is passing away in some cases, heart attacks, moving away. So the older generation isn't really there like they were. It's like there's a growing distance. And that leads into the second point that has kind of hit me rather hard. I kind of already said it about the distance that's growing between the older and younger generation, but the topics are as well. Back back 40, 50 years ago, there wasn't as many issues. So the technology was different. There wasn't as many issues. And there seems to be a very heavy focus on quantity in almost every single aspect. That's not helpful at all. Jordan Peterson has made a video, I believe, that talks about this, but it's labeled "Pick Your Sacrifice." And the idea is that you start off with potential and to do anything you want, but eventually you're going to have to learn to go pick and choose and to let certain things go and to build other things up, or else you will always be stuck at a crossroads trying to hold on to as much as you can. And I did not see that up until that video, because and that is a problem for today that did not exist back 40 or 50 plus years ago. All of these choices are making it impossible to take a choice. And combine that with the removal of God and fathers, and with many churches, I don't know about around here in Chapel Hill, but I've heard of churches splintering off. So struggles within the church, that's not good, as well as other issues within this country, within the US here. I can't speak for other countries outside, unfortunately. So yeah, I never realized that, just lead back in a circle here. I never realized that ministry online would be so incredibly important. Yeah. How you represent yourself too, and who you talk to is a next big step to talk. Is the next big step for whoever chooses to have ministry online. One of my friends, Anthony Barron, on Facebook, I want to say he used to be, I do not know all the details, but I want to say that he was heavily involved in the adult scene online, and he's a very handsome man. And I can tell because there are tons of women who flock to his post to go regularly thumbs up and to leave responses and stuff like that. So a bit funny there, but the point is, he has a charm and a charisma that unfortunately I don't really have. It's something that I would like to have myself, and I'm working on it. But he has that kind of an online presence. I'm working with a lot of kids, a lot of young men specifically, who have issues with relationships, who they don't really have the support there. They don't have they don't really have many male adults there who are trying to look out for their best interests, who are trying to give them good advice, good opinions on life matters. I stress to them repeatedly, I'm not a financial advisor. I also stress repeatedly, I'm not a counselor. I just say, I'll make myself available. I'm here if you want to talk about certain things. And I pick something up from my past that I use because it was a gift to me that a lot of them actually like, and it fits very well with the community. And it has allowed so many opportunities that have been very, that I'm amazed and thankful for. And as I said, started at the very beginning of the video, one of these kids is someone who I've been talking to very recently because he opened up to me and no one else. Kind of hit me pretty hard. And he's got some very valid concerns. I'm not going to say everything, but I'll just say that the lack of guidance in his life is showing. So I'll stick with him and try to be there available to see, because I don't know who else is there at this point in time. I really don't know. When you're online, some people are alone and other people are alone with predators. That's mostly chat programs where there's no supervision. And the community, just to give a bit heads up here, the community that I'm in is actually run by Christians. And I've talked to quite a few of the admin. I raised up some good points to give them a heads up as far as some of the issues. I mean, I've messed up and I've gotten warned by admin as well, like just to try to like be more considerate of others myself and try to avoid certain topics because they're adult rated. And I'm like, sorry, my bad. When you are online with minors, it's hard to keep things. It's hard to keep certain things out of certain topics because they're strictly adult related. So, for consideration for minors, try not to avoid adult topics. And as I said, I made a few mistakes there, so learning experience. So, what are your thoughts on some of this that I've said with online and support for the younger generation?
Well, I think it's pretty obvious that I shouldn't say this. I don't see that many younger people except what I see on the streets, what I read. And the church I go to is mainly older people with a few young. The COVID thing has messed this up. We used to have more teenagers, but the COVID thing has messed up, and we don't have all the people we did, and don't the kids. My experience is that outside of the children in my family, I have 4 boys and 5 boys, ranging in age from 6 to 20. And these boys, the boys that have both parents, okay, my youngest daughter and her husband, are doing really well. The 2 of them with my youngest son, their mother was dealing with chronic depression, who ate a lot and didn't do much. This has caused a lot of difficulties for those boys. But my son is helping them by being there, taking them to, to classes, to Muay Thai, to go to movies. He's very active with the kids. And while they still spend time with their mom, they're divorced now. Dad's having a big effect in their life more than he was before. So those guys are going to probably be all right. And it does. It takes it. Parenting really is a 2-person job. And I do not know who does a better single parent job, whether it's a man or a woman. But I do know that the kid is not the same as a 2-parent. And that means to me that there should be more adult involvement, probably, since it's the way I think, probably in church groups. You can, and of course you can't trust church groups either, because as you said earlier, we have ministers molesting kids, we have adulterous ministers, we have, I don't know that we have any bank robbers, but I think we've had a couple of murderers. That we cannot trust the clergy per se, because they're not,
not the way you could.
On the other hand, how do you find a reliable man? Where would you go to look if you had a son and you and your wife split and you're not doing well, okay? Let's just say you're not doing well, because getting a divorce is pretty horrible. It's absolutely horrible. But
There's a price that is continually paid, and it's usually time, energy, and it's related to stress. In some cases, it's financial burdens as well. So I want to say good men are built through hard times. They're not built through times of peace, they're not good time. There's a saying, and I'll try to get it down correct. Good times create weak men. Weak men create hard times, and hard times create tough men. And the idea there is when there are hard times rolling around, and this is a very hard fact, but if there's no support, there's a lot of people are going to break. A lot of people who are, something's going to happen and they're going to be out of the picture. But the ones who survive are the ones who, they take care of their own needs first. And the ones who actually care, the ones who see where they can meet some needs, where they can benefit others, they can benefit like as a whole. They're the ones who put back in what they have experience in, what has helped them overcome some of what they've been through. Anthony Spades is a YouTuber who points out a lot of issues, and I don't agree with everything he says. I agree with like maybe half, but he's made some very good points that are just not, you can't deny them. Like they're there. So there's issues there. And I'll be like, all right, cool. I appreciate that. I disagree with that. Thank you for that good point. I did not know that. So, as I said, he's someone who used to mess around with women and stuff like that. Tying slightly back to the other conversation here, real quick. He was not the best kind of guy. He was not a nice guy, but he saw a need. And he had experience, and he's like, all right, you know what? I'm going to put back to the community here, and I'm going to take what I know, give back to the younger men, because you know what? There's a younger generation of men growing up here, and there are issues. And you know what? Maybe I can do something about this. He's publicly admitted his own flaws and issues, but he also said that he saw a need that he was trying to like address. Hopefully that helps answer your question.
I think it's really important is to find a good leader is someone who has had to lead. And the leader gets his experience from having tough times to grow. You can't really share what you don't already have. If you've had a wonderful life, you know, your parents, all that stuff, you got married, you know, Miss Perfect, and you got a great job. It's tough to be a good leader because you don't know. But if you find a man, we're talking about men, who's maybe struggled in here, not necessarily in prison, that's a bad thing. But men who've lost jobs, men who've had bad marriages, men who've had made some bad career choices, but who survive and are strong, these are good men.
I want to make one quick point about what you said about prison. It's very important. Those who go to prison they're not always the bad guys that other people claim to be. As of right now, Kyle Rittenberg, he shot 4 people in self-defense, and he's being put on trial for murder charges. And this young man, can go to jail for the rest of his life because the prosecution may not be dirty, but those who are behind it, who are paying for this, are dirty. And it's been pointed out in different ways, different angles. So prison itself is not the issue. It's who's behind it, and the fact that here in the U.S., this country, like, have the highest number of inmates as far as the prison system goes, and I don't want to just say that everyone who walks through prison doors is a problem and is someone who belongs there.
That's not what I'm saying.
Okay.
What
Okay.
I'm actually saying is whatever you are when you go into prison, the atmosphere, the culture, the survival necessities of prison change you. They change you and they harden you in ways that are not good. And that's not true for everyone. But we do have to look at the recidivism rates and say, look, if we have 80, 70% recidivism rates, then we know that those people have not been well served by the system. And so if you see a person who's been in prison for some length, it's not necessarily whether that person was a bad person when they got in there. The system has not treated them kindly.
No, unfortunately not. Not from what I know
anyway. Yeah, it's not so much that have been, no, I'm talking prisons here. County jails are another matter. Is county jails, you go in there for 6 months or a year, and yeah, you got some bad people there, but that probably works out. But when you get in some place for 5 or 10 years, and you got an actual prison, that's an entirely different thing. More regimented, more people, more violence.
As I said, I get where you're going. I understood it and I took it a different direction. So sorry about that.
All right.
Not trying to do that. There's a real need out there, and unfortunately, I guess I'll make this a bit more public. I told you in private, and I'll repeat it here. A friend of mine, a very close friend of mine, who was a Wiccan, she passed away, and her daughter called me back up because they had my phone number. And this was in 2017. And I didn't process things at the time because I was trying to get a career started with in the tower industry. That failed, and I was unemployed for a couple of months, and I was done because I had put so much into this. I moved to a different state, got training all the way down in Texas, and having a career just kind of blow up and fail, it hit me pretty hard. I was not really prepared for it. So unfortunately, I forgot about her for a couple of months, but I got a job in security, thankfully. And I worked at a temporary site taking over for someone who was going on vacation for an entire month. And I was a museum here. And it reminded me of her. It reminded me of parts of my past. So it took me back to a community of struggling younger men that, while it was a different community that I was a part of in the past, around 2008 to 2010, these were different people entirely. I came back because of her, and I stayed to try to help these younger men because of these issues. And I didn't see too many other role models, anyone else who really seemed to care. I mean, there was cool people, sure, but not people who were taking their time, their energy, and investing in these younger men. I do not make any of this public in those groups at all, because it comes off wrong. It comes off like weird. It doesn't. I don't know what words they would use, but they would definitely shy away if they knew that. The online crowd is people you would almost never run into in real life. I've, as I said, I met some of these people, and they're really awesome in their own ways, but they're not social people that you would find in church or in other like Walmart, church. You may run across them real quickly in the checkout line, but yeah. So anyway, there's a real need. Oh, one more thing too. Facebook is not going to be the first or the only platform to try to have an online ministry. It just happens to be, for the time being, probably one of the better ones. There's advertisements and there's ways to branch out and to go reach out, but Facebook itself is changing. Something about the metaverse or something like that. It just happened. We don't really know how it's going to affect the Facebook as it is now. Because of my time in other online, using other apps to be online, I realize it's not the only one out there, and there's probably better ones, but there's always opportunity. I guess that's what I'm trying to say.
Okay.
Yeah, that's pretty much about it for that. There's always good topics, but how much time we got left here?
Well, since we have a good break point, I will go. My wife is ready to get on her Zoom meeting in a few minutes. Do you want to have lunch next week?
Sound good. I will say this though, what are your thoughts on, this is just one quick question here because it's a very good for a biblical lesson, and I've never heard anyone talk about this at all. Image versus identity. What are your thoughts about that?
I
Do you
don't
think
know. I don't know. No thought about it.
I did do a video on that, and if it is something that you think there is value that is worthwhile to talk about it, I would definitely invite you to go take a look and see what your thoughts are on that. I put notes on the bottom there, so you don't have to actually watch the video if you don't want to, but there's definitely some good notes and good thoughts about that, about culture versus what God says about image bearers. At least that's my dad's words. Image bearer is a very good biblical context, but it's not really used. And that's very much needed in today's world.
I will look into the subject over the week, and we'll talk together about where we're going to go for lunch next week. And I will be off. Okay?
All right. Thank you. It was awesome. I appreciate the conversation.
Me too. Take care.
Take care.